more information comes to light on how governments used Israeli espionage software to spy on different groups of people. It has also emerged that the Rwandan government has tapped phones of people within the country, neighboring countries, journalists, human rights activists, foreign diplomats, and even exiles, such as the activist, lawyer, and spokesperson of the Rwandan National Congress Party, that's Dr. Etienne Mtabazi, who sits with me in studio. His name appeared on this leaked list of people targeted by the Pegasus spyware. Now, Mr. Mtabazi is part of the community of Rwandan exiles who have found refuge in South Africa. The report only confirming the spectre of surveillance they have learned to live with, he says. Now, Dr. Mtabazi joins me in studio to talk more about this. Dr. Mtabazi, thank you very much for making the time to speak to us. Before we get to know exactly who you are, let me start with the comments that were attributed to you in an article that was written on the back of this list of people that were targeted for surveillance. You had these comments, I think, on an article first seen on News 24, where you were quoted as saying you were not surprised to find your name on the list of or among the list of these 50 individuals who were targeted by the Pegasus software. Firstly, tell us how you found out that your name was among the list of these people who were targeted for illegal surveillance.
Thank you so much for inviting me this afternoon. And your question is how I found out. In fact, we knew before the information went out in the public, because it's not something that started this year. It started a long time ago. Maybe if you can allow me to go a bit around 2015, okay. I was teaching at one university in Zambia. I have taken up a 3-year contract to lecture at a private university. I only spent a month because I got information that the Rwandan government was on my neck.
The Rwandan government?
Yes, I have to fly back to South Africa. A year later, that means 2016, I secured another position in another university in Tanzania, and there I spent 3 months. And I was tipped off by the security services in Tanzania that the government was on my neck. And this time I said I'm going to try my best to find out what is it going on my back.
Yeah.
I found that they have appointed a major, a person of a rank of a major. I will not mention the name, but does not mean that I do not know. I know who that person is. He was appointed to go after me, but the Tanzanian government advised me to come back, which I accepted, but I said, as an African state, you need to do everything possible to end up this kind of exercise, because it does not help Africa at all. It is taking us backwards. So obviously I am not a government decision maker. I had to comply with their requirements. I come back. Around 2019, I knew that some of my colleagues' phones were being monitored, and I myself received some messages from a number. Sometimes it will be +46 something. I think this is the code number of some of Scandinavian countries.
Yeah.
And I did not pay attention, and it will just show up as a WhatsApp video call. My phone will be somewhere, and I will start seeing the video call. I asked around, they say, no, be careful, maybe your phone is being monitored. I had an email address. I will see always messages telling me someone in China is attempting to log into your address. I have been changing my detail on my email most frequently, and WhatsApp send me an advice saying your phone is being monitored. Then you need to either change the phone or update your the detail of your phone, which I did. But it did not stop. Even as I am sitting here on the 18th of July, a person whom I know, who studied here in Rwanda, in South Africa, he was doing his tertiary education at Dr. Reva, he sent me an email. I will not mention the name either, but the person, if he knows, if we can follow this, he will know whom I'm talking about. So he sent me an email and say, how are you, Dr. Mutabazi? And innocent, I say, I'm fine. But I did it in our local in Rwanda.
Yes.
But I'm giving all these cases which are more personal to show that this is an issue that has been going on. So what transpired in the media, that we have read about 50,000 or so people who have been monitored around the world. And for Rwanda specifically, I think around 3,500 or so. It has been going on. And the authorities in Rwanda, they do not say, we are not doing it. The president say, we wish we could do it. He said, rather than you doing using this Pegasus, we use human intelligence. And he said, we are better at it.
All right.
Yes.
I think before you get into much detail, let's first establish why you think the Rwandan government is following you and doing so even digitally, as in monitoring your devices, as you've just explained. You have been exiled from that country since 1994, if I understand correctly. You'll correct me if I'm wrong. Why would the Rwandan government be interested in you, and what is it that you think they want to do to you?
Let me just also go a bit big into the history of my exile here. As you said, I left Rwanda in July 1994. I have been an officer in the former government. I was just a junior officer. I have completed my university training as a lawyer. And July 1994, I left the country. And from August 2010, I secured a position as an investigator and legal assistant at the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. Meaning, I was not hiding. I could travel anywhere except in Rwanda. Specifically in 2008, I was designated to go and pursue an international investigator course in The Hague. And I remember meeting the chief of prosecution, a Ugandan. He asked me whether I was aware that I have been selected. He said, I am not aware. He said, no, we have been screening you security-wise to see if you have been involved in the genocide, and I am happy to tell you that you are clear. But that was the second clearance. The first clearance was to work as an investigator or legal assistant at the ICTR. There have been a whole process. So now, 2010, we start seeing some of the former government officials. I remember the late Colonel Patrick Karegeya has arrived in 2007.
Yes.
I have not met him by then. But 2010, February, the former Chief of Staff, General Kayumba Nyamwasa, Fred, he was a High Commissioner to India. And we said, if these people can free, in addition to others who have fled before, it means there is a problem.
All right. Let me just interrupt you, Dr. Mutabazi. Just so the viewers, we take the viewers along with us. So you mentioned that you were a government worker in the former government of Rwanda. this was before 1994.
Yeah,
right?
that's correct.
Now, you'll forgive me for asking this question. What role did you play in that government before the Kagame government? And might I ask, if you don't mind, whether you are part of the majority Hutu people of Rwanda, or you're part of the minority who are the Tutsis, as I understand it. That's the tribe that the president of Rwanda also belongs. So just those two questions, just clarify those for us.
Yes, clarity means that we are very proud to say who we are and where we come from. In Rwanda, we are proud to say that we have a three ethnic group. We have the Twa, the Tutsi, and the Hutu, and I belong to the Hutu. And I'm a Rwandan, because whether you are a Hutu, Tutsi, or Twa, and irrespective of whether the current government has said there is no ethnic, we are proud of to say who we are.
Yes.
And concerning your other question, I said I have been an officer. In fact, when I completed my high school, I went in the cadet. It means a training as a military officer. I trained as a military officer, but at the same time, also attended the National University to become a lawyer. In fact, I was attending the military academy, and from there they asked me to go and train as a legal personnel. We were in the period of transforming the army to make sure that we meet the requirements of that time. It was even a time we were negotiating with the Rwandan Patriotic Front, and in preparation for that we said we need to have a personnel that is capable of taking the country forward, of dealing with the transition. And it was in fact an opportunity for everybody to train to be wider open. That's what I was doing.
Yes.
And if you go into any background check, you will find those details.
Yes.
So, but as I said, I was just at a junior stage.
All right. Mr. Mtabazi, I'm going to ask us to pause there for a moment. When I am in conversation with Dr. Etienne Mutabazi. He is a Rwandan national who is exiled in South Africa. He's also the spokesperson for the National Congress Party. That's an opposition party in Rwanda. Mr. Mutabazi, let's talk about what you said before about this Pegasus software. This is a spy software that's been used, we understand, to spy on a number of individuals. I want to start off with the response from Rwanda's foreign minister, Dr. Vincent Biruta, who has come out to defend his country's government, saying that Rwanda does not use the Pegasus software, and on top of that, he's quoted, or they are quoted, as saying Rwanda does not possess technical capabilities in any form in order for that country's government to be able to use this spy software. Are you saying that he's lying?
You know, as a representative of the government, denying is normal. And with respect to the honorable minister, I even wonder if he might be akin to what is going on in the intelligence cycle of Rwanda, because this is our country we are talking about. We know how they operate. Mm-hmm. And my statement to you is they do have, and I am sure if the president were to speak tomorrow, he will obviously contradict the minister, because it won't be the first time. We have many examples. I know we don't have enough time to go into this, but obviously the minister knows that what he's saying is not true.
All right. So you are saying emphatically that the Rwandan government does use the Pegasus software to spy on people like yourself?
They do. It does.
Are you aware of the workings of this Pegasus software. Perhaps let me talk about the company that created the spy software. They are called the Nso Group. These are the developers of the so-called Pegasus project. This is understood to be an Israeli cybersecurity company. Are you aware of this company's links to the government of Israel?
What we are aware is that Rwanda entertains relations with Rwanda, not only in terms of security, but even in terms of ideology, because Rwanda would claim that it has endured genocide like the Jews in Israel, that we know. And we know that Israel trained security agents of Rwanda. That's where Rwanda buy the majority of its sophisticated weaponry, that we know. And it will not surprise me, though I am not a IT personnel, but I am in a position to know, to research. In addition, when you read a report written by a certain media, let's not take people outside here as simple idiots. They know what they are doing. It goes to their credibility. They cannot issue a report of a certain magnitude which is baseless. So the Rwanda has all the right to deny it. The researcher has all the right to affirm and confirm it. And I'm here to affirm that Pegasus sell those technologies to Rwanda and to other countries as well.
Okay. Then talk to us about what the Rwandan government has been arguing about people like yourselves, the exiles, who sit in other countries and have run away from Rwanda claiming political persecution. This is what they've been arguing, that dissidents, which is what they label people like yourself, dissidents like yourself, who are exiled in foreign countries, are responsible for acts of terrorism inside Rwanda. Are you aware of such claims, and what is your response to you being labeled as people who are basically engaged in acts of terror inside Rwanda?
No, for the benefit of time, I will mention two things. When we fled, I mean, we were belonging to the former government structure. Anyone would be accused of being a genocide criminal. As I sat in Arusha, I am in a position to say the information at my disposal. Those are things I have done a lot of research on, and it is going on. And another factor that came into play is from 2010, as I mentioned, when the former government official affiliated to the current regime who used to be, another issue came into play of saying people are a terrorist, because we are trying to voice our concern. A person like me who has been in exile since 1994, I believe I have all the rights to say I claim my rights to my country. That is a legitimate claim, and I cannot run away from it. Whether the government call it a crime, it's possible. If you are a South African in the 70s, 80s, anyone currently living or dead in dignity, I mean, in those years, he was called a criminal, a terrorist. That's in fact the same for us. And I am really very happy that I am mentioning these things on a South African soil. We will be called a criminal, but if in the event that we manage to regain our rights, I am sure we will receive a lot of credit. That's what we were saying during those times. Even today, we were quite right. So this is an issue I can go into if maybe I had a week to discuss the same with you.
Unfortunately, time is always against us. I want to move to the president of this country, because reports have come out to suggest that President Cyril Ramaphosa was identified along these 50,000 other people for surveillance by Rwandan intelligence in 2019. The Nso Group, talking to the Guardian newspaper, they don't appear to deny that President Ramaphosa, the president of this country, was placed on surveillance by the Nso Group through this Pegasus project, but that the newspaper was saying that though the Nso Group said this did not mean that Ramaphosa's devices were necessarily hacked. In your view, why do you think the president of this country would be a target of illegal surveillance by Rwandan intelligence?
Let me go about it in a two-way. First of all, it's surprising that I feature on the same list as the president of South Africa. It's really very surprising. But you should also add the Prime Minister of Burundi, General Bunyoni, the former Prime Minister of Uganda, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Chief of Staff of Uganda, and many personalities in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Those were designated by Rwanda. So now, with respect to Ramaphosa being targeted, obviously, you need to link this country. He's the president of this country, and we are exiled in this country, and Rwanda would think that by expressing our freedom of speech, of expression, of what we do, then the president should have done something. I remember in March 2018, President Ramaphosa met with Kagame in Kigali, and President Ramaphosa said these two ladies, meaning former Minister Lindwe Sisulu and Mushikiwabo, were going to look into the normalization of the relations.
Yeah, because at that time, the relations had become frosty because of the tit-for-tat expulsion of diplomats, South African diplomats. This was on the back of Patrick Karegeya, the former spy chief of Rwanda, who was killed on South African soil. This was in December of 2013.
Yes.
How would you characterize the relations now between South Africa and Rwanda?
I know they are in the process of normalization, but I may say they are still frosty. And if two sovereign states were to see relations, that's not a problem. But seeing relations with Rwanda come with a certain difficulty, because you will only have a relation with Rwanda if you accept all that Rwanda asks. What is it? In Uganda, which is a neighbor in the north, Rwanda will send its agent to go and abduct, kill on the ground, or return people to be killed in Rwanda, or to be jailed, or to be tortured, or in any other way have their human rights violated. That's the kind of relation Rwanda would entertain. And in the process of the normalization, Rwanda could have come out clearly. During, I think, 2 months ago, when Minister Vincent Biruta visited Dr. Pando, he should have come out and say, we are spying on your president. That's what we call a good faith in international relations. You know, international relations have the way they are run. I am a lawyer. I recall Resolution 2625. That's November 1970. It clearly states how sovereign countries should behave, not the way Rwanda is behaving vis-a-vis any country they would try to see relations with.
Yes.
So I'm not here to speak on behalf of any government. I am just giving an opinion, but an informed one.
So I am in conversation with Rwandan national, Dr. Etienne Mtabazi. He is also the spokesperson of that country's opposition party, the National Congress. But let's bring into the conversation now Peter Fabricius. He is a journalist with the Daily Maverick, written extensively on issues affecting the continent of Africa. Peter, thank you very much for joining the conversation. Let me ask you just broadly how the Pegasus project and this leak that has occurred, how you think it is going to affect Rwanda's relations with the state of Israel. I was just talking to Dr. Mtabazi here, who seems to state emphatically that Rwanda has a solid relationship with the state of Israel?
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think that's really the issue, how it's going to impact relations with Israel. I don't think it will harm them at all. As he mentioned, they have very good relations. They feel quite a lot of kinship, I suppose, if you like, for each other because of mutual experiences of genocide, and there's been quite a lot of cooperation between them. It's a bit embarrassing for both of them to have this revealed, obviously, but I'm sure they're going to get over that. It's not going. I can't see it having any harmful impact on their relations.
But for the one country, though, that surely will have a problem with what has come out is the very country, South Africa, that Etienne Mtabazi sits right now. Paul Kagame has had huge problems with people that he calls dissidents from his country, and he calls them traitors as well, who have come to seek refuge in South Africa. We talk about people like the former Army General Kayumba Nyamwasa, who has survived several attempts on South African soil, and the claims are that it was the work of Rwandan intelligence officials. Patrick Karegeya sadly lost his life, and the understanding is that the accusations were leveled at the doorstep of the Rwandan government. That's why we saw the expulsions that then occurred. In your view, how is the Ramaphosa administration relating to the Rwandan government right now?
Look, this obviously complicates those efforts to normalize relations, which Dr. Mtabazi was speaking about earlier, and they're just underway, actually. There was a meeting in Kigali just a few weeks ago before this all came out. And it's really very difficult to normalize relations completely because each side has sort of certain intractable problems with the other. Rwanda wants South Africa to hand over General Kayumba, which South Africa, I'm pretty sure, is not going to do because it believes that would be like a death sentence for him. And on the other hand, South Africa has applied for the extradition of two of those suspects in the murder of Karegeya, Patrick Karegeya, back on December 31st, 2013. And it's very unlikely that Rwanda will hand those over. So, in terms of complete normalization, that's going to be difficult, and then this just complicates things. I know that South African officials are trying to independently verify the claims that are made by Amnesty International and Forbidden Stories that President Ramaphosa's phone was targeted by this Pegasus spyware. If they're going to be able to do that, but I guess there are ways to do that. And if that is the case, they haven't said what the consequences would be, but it could upset the efforts to normalize relations.
Yeah. Dr. Mtabazi, for you, how long